The sound of a thunderstorm fills the air. We see dim visuals of an old, isolated house in the middle of the woods as lightning briefly illuminates the scene. Soft, haunting music plays. Imagine moving to the middle of nowhere, seeking peace and a fresh start, only to find yourself trapped in a nightmare you can't escape. This is the story of the Smith family, a story that begins with hope and ends in a way no one could have ever imagined. The Smiths thought they had found their dream home, a place to build new memories. But soon, strange occurrences began to unfold. What started as small, unsettling events quickly escalated into a full-blown haunting. The Smith family found themselves in a battle against an unseen force, a force that seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. They soon realized that leaving was not an option, as the house had a grip on them that was impossible to break. This is their story, a tale of terror that will leave you questioning what truly lies in the shadows. Scene transition, slow pan across a family photo of the Smiths, 2 parents and 2 young children smiling happily. The Smith family seemed like the picture of happiness. They had just moved into a new home on the outskirts of town. A charming, if a bit run-down, 2-story house surrounded by trees and nature. It was quiet, peaceful, exactly what they were looking for. But little did they know, this house held a sinister past. The house, with its creaky floors and old-fashioned charm, seemed perfect for the Smiths. They were eager to start fresh, to build new memories in this quaint abode. The children, Timmy and Sarah, were especially excited about their new rooms and the vast backyard where they could play and explore. As the days went by, the family settled into their new routine. The parents, John and Mary, enjoyed the tranquility of their new surroundings, often spending evenings on the porch, watching the sunset. It was a stark contrast to their previous life in the bustling city. However, it wasn't long before strange things began to happen. At first, it was just small, inexplicable occurrences. Objects moving on their own, doors creaking open without a breeze. The Smiths brushed it off as the quirks of an old house. But as the days turned into weeks, the incidents became more frequent and unsettling. The once peaceful home now felt heavy with an unseen presence. The Smiths couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. Little did they know, the house had a dark history, one that would soon reveal itself in terrifying ways. The Smith family's new beginning was about to take a chilling turn. Scene transition showed the Smith family moving into the house, unpacking boxes, laughing together. From the outside, it was a fresh start. They spent the first few weeks settling in, decorating the house, even hosting a small welcome party for neighbors. But soon, subtle signs began to show, signs that something wasn't right. At first, it was small things, lights flickering on and off, cold drafts in rooms with no windows open, a strange musty smell that lingered no matter how much they cleaned. Scene transition close-up of Mrs. Smith's face, showing concern. Mrs. Smith was the first to notice the sounds at night, soft, almost imperceptible footsteps that seemed to echo through the empty hallways. She thought it was her imagination, chalking it up to the house settling. But then the footsteps started growing louder, and they always seemed to come from just outside her bedroom door. Pause for suspense. One night, Mrs. Smith was jolted awake by a scratching sound, like nails dragging across wood. She brushed it off, thinking it was an animal outside. But when she went to check, she found deep scratch marks on the inside of her bedroom door. That was the moment she realized something was very, very wrong. Mr. Smith dismissed her concerns at first, attributing the scratches to old wood or maybe a prank. But soon he started experiencing the strange phenomena himself. Doors would slam shut with no wind, and the air would grow unbearably cold in certain rooms, no matter how high he set the thermostat. And then there was Emma, their youngest. She started waking up in the middle of the night, screaming, saying she saw a man standing in the corner of her room, watching her. She described him as tall and thin, with hollow, empty eyes that seemed to look right through her. Every night she would cry to her parents, but when they checked, there was never anyone there. Emma's nightmares became so frequent that she could barely sleep. The bags under her eyes grew darker, and her behavior changed. She became withdrawn, afraid to be alone, even in her own home, but things only escalated from there. One evening, as the family was having dinner, they all heard it, a low, guttural voice whispering Emma's name. It echoed through the room, chilling them to the bone. Mr. Smith jumped up and searched the entire house, but found nothing. No intruders, no sign of anyone outside, just an empty house and a sense of being watched. Pause for dramatic effect. From that night on, it was as if the house had come alive. Objects moved on their own, strange symbols appeared on the walls overnight, and the whispering voices became louder, almost mocking the family. The once cozy home they dreamed of had turned into a prison of terror. Desperate, Mrs. Smith reached out to the local authorities and even a priest, hoping to find answers. But every time someone visited, the house remained eerily quiet. The whispers stopped, the objects stayed in place, and the symbols vanished. It was as if the house was toying with them, waiting until they were alone before unleashing its horrors once again. Finally, the Smith family decided to leave. They planned to move out the following weekend, but they would never get the chance. On their last night in the house, something happened. Something so terrifying, no one has been able to explain it. Neighbors reported hearing blood-curdling screams coming from the house around midnight. But when they ran over to check, they found the house completely empty. No sign of the family, no trace of a struggle, just silence. When authorities arrived, they found the house frozen in time. Dinner was still on the table, chairs were pulled out, as if the family had been sitting there just moments before. But the Smiths were gone, vanished without a trace. And the strangest part? The inside of the house was covered in scratches, on the walls, on the floors, even on the ceiling, as if something or someone had clawed its way through every inch of that house, leaving behind a haunting reminder of what had happened. To this day, no one knows what happened to the Smith family. Some say they were taken by something otherworldly, a spirit bound to the house. Others believe the house itself is cursed, that it consumes anyone who dares to live within its walls. But one thing is certain: the house still stands, waiting for its next victims. So if you ever find yourself in an old, isolated house and you hear whispers in the dead of night, remember the Smith family and ask yourself, could you be next?